Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Welcome back to the show. Kristen, Noel, Bill, Miles joining us here live again. How are you doing today?
We are good. How are you? Glad to be back.
I'm excited to have you guys back. So please, for those new listeners today, please introduce yourself to everyone.
I'm Kristen Noel. I'm an intuitive divorce life coach. And Bill?
I'm Bill Miles, and yes, also holistic life coach, divorce coach. Together, we have a divorce coaching program specifically to help mothers navigate, the messy waters of divorce.
And how can we find you guys? On what website?
Yes, you can find us at intuitivedivorce.com.
Perfect. Well, thank you for being here. And just for new time listeners, just tell us a little about what you do, and then we'll get to today's topic for the day.
Sure. Kristen, you want to do that?
Go ahead.
Okay. So our mission really is, as I said, to help mothers navigate the messy waters of divorce, to help them save time, to help them save money through the legal process, to help them save a lot of heartache for themselves and for their kids. We've both been through that mess of divorce. We've both been through high conflict, dramatic divorces some 18 years ago, but with young kids who are now adults. So we've made mistakes we don't want anyone else to make. We've seen how kids process the experience of divorce well into adulthood. And we want to make sure that every mother that works with us anyway has the right tools and strategies to communicate with them and prevent, the emotional spiral down that's so common with kids in divorce.
Yeah, just to piggyback on that, I think it's really it's been this healing journey that we experienced where we realized that we wanted to make some meaning from this mess. And we knew that there was a better way. We knew that women could divorce differently, suffer less, and end up on the other side of divorce in a completely different condition. So our program is really steeped in transforming the experience and outcome of divorce. Yeah.
Well, we're excited to talk more about the program today, and it's called Best Self Intuitive Divorce, right? So let's talk really about what the intuitive component is and why this is so important during a divorce.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that, it's interesting because we live in a world that really doesn't foster us looking inward. It's all about find your answers elsewhere. What does everybody else think? Taking polls. What are their opinions? What should I do? And at the end of the day, you're the one that's going to live with the ramifications of your decisions, your life decisions. And let's just take divorce, for example. I mean, that's casting this net over every single solitary aspect of your life. And it's not that we're expecting anyone to be an attorney or a child psychologist or a financial planner, but intuition is this gift and this superpower that we have. It's like your filter. It's your life filter where you're going to run everything through that. Is this big decision that I have to make? Is this aligned with me? Is this aligned with my heart? Is this aligned with how I want to raise my children, how I want to model life for my kids, what I want them to see, even if, you're hitting a bump in the road and you're hitting life adversity, you want to teach your kids how to navigate that. So intuition is, it's not this woo-woo construct. It's not this is your internal GPS. This is your North Star. This is your gut, when something lights you up, when you get chills about something because you're really excited, or, fight or flight, run in the other direction, run for cover. So it's such an important thing that just gets lost in the shuffle. And I would actually go out on a limb and say that ignoring your intuition is likely one of the reasons that you may be in a divorce.
Anything you want to add to that, Bill?
Well, as somebody who got pretty disconnected from their intuition some time ago, intuition is really an important part of navigating life, not just divorce. And it does sound woo-woo, but the fact is, we all know in our hearts, really, what's right and what's wrong for us, where our values stand, what's right and wrong to do for our kids. But we suppress our voice. Oftentimes, and we're working with mothers in this program at this point, so that's sort of what we experience daily. But these women have lost their voice in the marriage. Maybe their husbands have just been, more alpha, or maybe they've been narcissists or bullying, or maybe it's just been a pattern of, the women just giving, just thinking they need to do things for everybody else, their family, their husbands, their kids, and they forget about themselves. And so it's like a slippery slope, and they get disconnected.
Mm-hmm.
I did for myself. But once you realize that you can tap back into that, and there is a methodology that we help people with to really do that, that's very tactical. But once you can tap back into that, you suddenly trust yourself again. I think that's the biggest thing, is trusting yourself. You don't second guess your decisions anymore. And suddenly life gets easier because you know what's right and wrong, and you have the confidence to act on it. It's what we call kind of stepping into your authority. Once you are listening to that voice and you've got the tools to move forward.
I'll just jump in on that also. I feel like when you are disconnected from your intuition, it's like everything is overwhelming. Everything is really confusing. You don't know which way to turn. This is really about, like Bill says, being able to lean in and trust yourself. And for whatever reason it is that, maybe you did kowtow to your spouse, or maybe you just put your needs to the bottom of the list. The more we practice that, the more distance there is between our ability to make grounded decisions. And in divorce, this isn't something like, a day at the spa. This is a real life skill and a real life tool that will help you make these decisions. It's strategic. It's really strategic, so that, you will get advice. You're going to need advice from attorneys, and, you're not expected to know how to divorce. And it's fine to get advice and to get information. Actually, it's prudent, but then run it through your own filter. How does this, someone may be advising me to do X, Y, and Z, but what is their agenda? Does that feel good to me? Is this something that I can live with? Is this something that I'm going to be proud of? Is this something, when my kids ask me about it, down the road, I'm going to really say, yeah, I feel really good about that decision. I made it from a grounded place. Right.
Yeah. Especially in divorce, the dynamic needs to change. That's what we're part of, in this program, is changing the dynamic with your soon-to-be ex or whatnot. But where it can go wrong and it can become this ugly, prolonged, expensive process is when you kind of give away your power to all the other people in the room. Your attorney, granted, attorneys are an important part of the process, but letting them call the shots and really drive the train is a bad approach. It's going to cost you a lot of money. It's going to take a lot of time, and you may not get the results that you want. Child psychologists, really important part of the process, but even they are come from a reference point of their own experience or their client's experience, which may be a little different from yours. And of course, friends and family, however well intended their opinions are, they're not going through what you're going through, right? So it's really important that you're the final
that empathy factor. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right. Do you want to talk more then about the intuitive side? I know we're kind of on a tangent, which is great, but about feeling abstract. We started with that before. Did you want to add more to that and that overwhelm, and how we can really start aligning with this intuition? And how do we know when we're not aligned? I mean, yeah, there's a lot to that.
Well, you know what? And I don't want someone who is hearing this right now thinking like, oh my God, I'm not in this holistic world of conscious living and body, mind, spirit. It's one choice away, one conscious choice away. Like literally, it's just about getting still and being okay with asking yourself, how does this feel? Like, look around and witness your life right now. Like, how is this feeling? Are you in like complete, a complete state of like despair and fear and vulnerability, or are you in flow? even if you're making tough decisions, you can make decisions from a grounded place. That's not a place of resistance. That is like, you can make tough choices and just say, like, I know this is the right choice for my family. I know this is the right choice for me. This feels aligned with me. This is a tough choice, but this is the choice I'm making, and I'm making it for the right reasons. As opposed to, like, imagine yourself like running around, putting out fires, like just constantly feeling like you're in that fight or flight, constantly feel like you're reacting, responding.
That's a very stressful.
It's very
sometimes
stressful.
high stress. Sometimes it's a low grade stress, but it's a constant stress scenario like that. One of the what Kristen just mentioned is one of the tools that we use to gauge, if you're really in alignment with the decision, is physically feeling it in your body. For example, if you were deciding on a custody scenario, do I want 50-50 or do I want 70-30? Or maybe it's a financial thing, or maybe who's going to get the division of some house or something. And you sit with it, and you have to be willing to find silence, which a lot of people aren't that comfortable with or not used to doing, and feel if this feels expansive or constricting. If agreeing to this term, say that your soon-to-be ex wants to put forth, and it feels very constricting, like, oh my God, this just doesn't feel good, then you've got an answer right there. Like, this has to be looked at again.
And you also can't.
Like, okay, I can breathe. This feels expansive. This gives me options and possibility in the future. That's a response. That's your answer. It's your inner voice.
And you can't run away from your feelings, especially the messiness of divorce. Like, as much as you try, you just can't plaster on a face and like pretend it's not happening. And all this stuff that's going on isn't happening within you, because it's going to come out. It will sneak out. It's, one way or another, and it won't be pretty. So it's really, and again, when we're walking women through this process and this methodology, and sort of just bringing them back to themselves, and just allowing them to voice what they're really feeling. What are you really feeling in this moment? When I went through my divorce one time, my back went out so badly, to the extent that I was like flat on the floor. I had zero connection to all of this world at that time. This was a very long time ago. There was, we didn't have access to all the same offerings. And I really wasn't even making the connection that, the physical manifestation was my stress. It was, it's going to come out one way or the other. It came out in my body. It was like I was so completely terrorized and immobile. And it was literally manifesting in my body. And so physical symptoms, dis-ease, this is all stemming from like us trying to stuff our pain in places it doesn't want to be. It wants to be out.
Wow, such a good point. You're right. Stress does that. All of a sudden, I've had a very stressful few months myself. It's not a divorce, but stress in general. Well, guess what? I ended up, doctor says, oh, well, you need double hernia surgery in your groin. You've been to, you have carpal tunnel. Oh, the arthritis is tendonitis. I'm like, what? I'm like, oh, then you have a sinus infection. I'm like, all within like 3 months. And I'm like, what's going on with my body? And then I realized, okay, obviously I'm abusing parts of my body by overusing things, but at the same time, there's too much injury. There's something else. And then it's like, oh, I know why. There's just, I haven't been in the right mental state.
So a perfect example of this is so great that you bring this up. So you said, what's wrong with my body, right? So the new narrative is, what are you trying to tell me? What are you trying to tell me? Your body is a miraculous healing machine that, like, we only know when something's wrong. We don't know when it's doing the 9 million other things that it's working behind the scenes and healing all the time. Like, we're walking in and multitasking and not paying attention and taking our health for granted. So much of tapping into your intuition is rewiring the questions. So as opposed to what is wrong, what's wrong is you are running your poor old body ragged, right? So you want to say to your body, what are you trying to tell me? And if you actually just sit and ask your body what it's trying to tell you, your intuition's going to tell you what it is. You knew right away. As soon as you stopped running to doctors, because they'll run the tests, they're going to say, well, there's nothing conclusive. And then you're like, oh yeah, I think I just need a break. I
Mhm.
think I need to slow down. I think I need to honor myself. And so this, particularly from mamas, this is just such a common thing. And it just goes on for years and years and years and years. And suddenly, if you've allowed this disconnect to go on for so long and you find yourself in the mess of divorce, tapping into your intuition seems like, wait a minute, like how am I supposed to get there?
Mhm. Oh my goodness. All right. What else do we have to share? My gosh, we're just on a roll,
So,
but there's so much more to the notes. So I'll let you pick up.
so a lot of women that come to us are in a lot of pain, and they're looking for answers like right now. They're not actually looking for, how do I want to be more intuitive with myself? No, they're looking for, how am I going to protect my kids? How am I going to get off this emotional roller coaster? How am I going to avoid this financial disaster that divorce is going to be? That's what they want to know. So we do work with them to solve all those things. The intuitive piece is one of the tools that lays the groundwork. But the children, for example, once we relieve some of the stress, right, and get you into a grounded place. We fortify your inner voice again, if you will. And then we give you tools of communication with the kids at different ages, age appropriate, of course, but what to share and when and how and why. And every mother that's working with us is a great mom. They're well-intended. They want to be the best mom they can. And so, but they haven't all been through this.
Okay.
They don't know how what is happening in the dynamic with you and your ex when your child is 7 is going to affect them at 17 or at 27. We see this all the time. So even some strategies or approaches they think are being the most responsible, we can kind of see, with all due respect to your good intentions, that this may be not the best direction. Try this instead. We know why this can work better. So, helping the kids is a big part of what we do. It's we want to help the mothers, of course, but the benefit also is the trickle down for all the children. So I don't know, Kristen, I'm sure you might want to pick up on that.
Well, I have a lot to say about that one, just because it's, I have so much empathy for mamas going through this, because again, we mentioned they have to, they're dealing with all the legal ramifications and the financial ramifications and who's going to live where and parenting plans and how am I going to get my kids through here? And not to mention my own heartbreak or anger or whatever gamut of emotions they're experiencing, but they don't get to put their kids on hold. So your kids are in the house and they're feeling everything. They're witnessing everything. They're sensing everything. It doesn't matter what age they are. And if they're really young, you might think like, oh, they don't really know, but they're actually feeling the energy. What you risk there is that suddenly when you're unable to stay grounded, unable to be on your best game, you're only human and this is a messy experience, but you know what? You might be saying things you shouldn't be saying in front of your kids. You might be doing things that you shouldn't be doing in front of your kids. You might be having conversations that you shouldn't be having in front of your kids, because you're just trying to keep it together every day. It's like, it's a lot. It's a lot. So that's why this work of getting grounded, taking care of yourself, nurturing yourself, filling your cup, and being in touch with your intuition is going to save you so much cleanup on the other end. And you'll feel really good about how you got your kids through it. It doesn't mean it's going to be perfect. It's not going to be perfect. Let's just get that off the table. But, and listen, parenting isn't perfect, right? But it is always this opportunity to have an event, have a reaction. If it's not a good one, go back and clean it up, acknowledge it to your child. But this program is really steeped in also giving moms the tools to know what to say, how to say it, when to say it. And on the flip side of it, how to clean up, something that maybe you shouldn't have said.
So true. Oh my goodness. All right. Well, we still got just a few minutes left here on the show. Let's continue. What else did you want to add?
So I'd love to talk a little bit more about the kids, because I know a lot of the moms, listening in may wonder, well, what are some of the mistakes, that you guys see? with regard to the kids. And paramount to that is like keeping the kids out of the conflict, right? And of course, we know you shouldn't disparage the other parent in front of the child and so forth. These are kind of basic things that people know, but they ignore them all the time. But the most important thing to me is to be able to create a space where a child can express their emotions without judgment. And that is something that a lot of parents, even some of the best, intended mothers that we have, sometimes lose sight of, because what that means is you're not telling them how to feel. It doesn't mean that you don't, that you tolerate bad behavior. That's a whole different thing. But if your son wants to have a relationship with the father, or vice versa, whatever it is, or your daughter, whatever, feels like she doesn't like the way you do things at home, you have to allow them to, you can't say, no, that's wrong, or no, your daddy's an asshole, or no, the way I do it's right, or whatever. You have to allow them to express themselves. You can address it. I mean, you can probe, and we encourage that, tell me more about this. What does it really mean? Where is it really coming from? You'd often be surprised that their big global words are coming from one little thing. Like, maybe I don't like the fact that, we get up too late and have to rush to school. And you take that to mean, I don't like being at your house, mommy. You know what I'm saying? It can be that simple.
And it's really seductive also for an enraged mama to say something that she wished she had said to her girlfriend and not her kid. But, to say something to your child like, sorry, Johnny, but, I'd love to buy you that new bicycle. But, unfortunately, daddy's off with his new girlfriend and we have no money for that. So these kinds of little,
I hear that all the time. Yeah.
These kinds of little things, they're like seductive because you really just want to get those digs in sometimes. But you have to understand the long-term ramifications of that, because number one, even if you go back and clean it up, you've already said it, right? So now the kids are going to worry about money. Oh no. So it's like there's all this trickle down from that as well. And just piggybacking on what Bill was saying, it's like you want to allow your kids to come to their own conclusions, and you also want to allow them to love who they love, and they will see things. It's a long game sometimes. It is. I will admit, like, I know sometimes we want that instant gratification. It's like, pick me, my, team mom, whatever. But you don't win in the end with that, because there will be problems.
So important too.
There will be problems down the line. Yeah. And to not allow your child, and it's hard. I know, because you might hate this person's guts, but it is hard. You've got to remember your kid just wants to love their parents.
Yeah. All right. Perfect. We can end it on that. Thank you with the work you do. And that's what you're helping here. You're helping families, you're helping children. And of course, the moms that are going through this. Would you mind sharing, Kristen and Bill, how we can reach you?
Sure. The best way to reach us is at that website, intuitivedivorce.com. And you'll see, all about kind of our approach to helping women. There are case studies there, testimonials, whatnot. There's also a link to a workshop. It's like a half-hour workshop that any mom going through divorce will benefit from watching that. And if it resonates, there's an opportunity to book a call to talk about, if this is a fit or not. We also, of course, are on Instagram and Facebook, but you can find those handles at intuitivedivorce.com.
All right. Thank you both so much. Pleasure having you here. Appreciate the conversation and looking forward till next time. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to
have that one great barrier just knocked down, I mean, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.